Hi there, this is Aysha's opinion, and today I would like to be talking about organic versus non-organic. So the first thing to start with is that we grow things off our planet, and our planet is the largest organism, right? We are the microorganisms on our planet, right? So you have to think of that when you go to grow things, right? That in the earth, well, the earth has like a skin on it, doesn't it? And that's the soil, that's the dirt, that's the skin. And so when you're digging, you don't want to be piercing it, right? Because chicken, he wants feeding, that's what it is. I'm sorry. I try to do videos and he just comes up to me like a meter away because he wants his wheat. I'm sorry. Okay, this is the stuff I feed my chicken, right? There we go. He will be quiet now, hopefully. So, the soil is the skin, and the earth is like a living being. So we call the Mother Earth because it's what gives us life and it gives us nutrients, right? So one thing I do is that when I dig, I don't use shovels. I use like a fork in the ground to loosen the earth, and then maybe like a bucket or my hand and empty it out. If I'm doing like post hole digging or something, I'm gonna probably use a shovel, but when I'm just gardening, I try not to use a shovel because I remember I went to like some gardening classes, and the teacher is very funny, and he's like, "What is the enemy of worms?" And we're all like, "Pesticides, you know, this and that," and he's like, "The shovel." And it's so true. I mean, really true. So worms are so important. Microorganisms and worms, they go together beautifully. So the microorganisms grow as little polyps. I think I can actually show you guys. I loosened up a patch earlier so I could show you. So the microorganisms grow on the roots and little polyp pockets here, and then they will expand like their own little root system, and it will go and it'll like aerate the soil, and so that the roots and the worms can move around easier. And then when the microorganism dies, then the roots of the tree feed off it. Let's see if I can find some. I'm just digging like a chicken, chicken style digging. Okay, now just there, you can see this yellow stuff. Let me pick some off. Okay. That yellow stuff there is a microorganism. They are beautiful. I have some really beautiful soil here. Like, look at that. That is some beautiful, beautiful, soft, worm-fed, aerated soil. Another thing is, I never tread in the garden because that just takes all the work that the worms and the microorganisms have done away. Right, so I guess this video has turned less from organic versus non-organic to just organic tips. But I will continue. So I think organic is an important thing in our world, because it wasn't like organic versus non-organic, or do you eat organic? No, it was just, that's what it was. That's all there was. So I don't think that we should be messing with the genetics of anything. I think things are natural the way they are, and frankly, I don't think you need to be messing with the genetics of something to take the pips out. That just means that you can't reproduce anything. I mean, I'm the master at seed saving. If I like see a grape and it has a seed in it, I'm like picking the seeds out, I dry them and then put them in a little envelope. Like, that's one of my hobbies. Is I've got like this big box of just seeds in it, and I don't know where I'm going to use them, but I'm a collector of seeds. So, yeah, everything used to be organic once, and that's, I think, how we should be keeping things. And I guess it would be nice if people also thought that way. And it's easy to say that you don't care or it might not affect you. You know, it might not affect you. Kind of like having a Panadol every day to prevent a headache. It might not affect you. You might get liver cancer in a couple of years. You know, who knows, right? So I think the thing that people don't understand is that farming is not about creating food, it's about creating money. The farmers aren't for, I want to create healthy food and grow healthy food and I want to let my land rest. See, they will, like, for like 10 years, they won't even let the soil rest for 1 year. And then they'll go, I wonder why my crop on the 11th year has failed. Not failed, but just, they're not big, they're not good looking plants. And then they'll go, well, I'll just put super and I'll put lime and I'll put pesticides and I'll put herbicides and fungicides. So to enhance my plant. But what they don't get is that the microorganisms are resting whilst, so, you know, 1 year your crop will be like really bad because the microorganisms are resting because they cannot keep up. It's like you can't just run for 100 kilometers. You can run for like 5Ks, stop for a minute, 5Ks. You can't just keep on going. So, what they do is then they put all these, like super on it, which is to enhance the plant. And then because they don't have it's not balanced, all the bugs come in, so they put fungicides and herbicides and all this. But what they're not realizing, or maybe they do, I don't know, as soon as I start videoing, all these cars drive past. Now, I live on a back road. Why do all these cars drive past? Okay, so fungicides. I think I was talking, fungicides. So a microorganism is a fungicide. It's a fungal. It's a positive fungal. So I guess when they're spraying fungicide, which is to kill the fungal, they are killing the microorganisms, and then they're like, for the rest of that piece of land's existence, it's gonna need like all this man-made stuff to make it work. If that makes sense, I hope it does. So I think people should be growing organic, and if everyone just grew a little bit, we wouldn't need these big supermarkets so much. And I wonder to myself, I think to myself, how can they grow this food so cheaply, like ridiculously cheaply, when you can buy, if you go to, like, we were driving through where, Coffs Harbour, where they grow all of the avocados, and they had a big sign on the side of the road saying, you know, organic avocados, and they were $2.50 each, where they grow them. And then we went to Woolies, and they were $1 each. And we're like, what? The farmer that grows it can't even sell it as cheap as the chain store. How are they getting it so cheaply? So, so that's another thing to think of. What is my dreads? My dreads are just having a little... I washed them the other day, so they're like all fuzzy and just flopping everywhere like normal hair. Yeah. Anyway, so I wonder to myself how they can sell the food at such affordable prices when the farmers can't even sell them at those prices. It's one thing to think of. Another thing to think of is, why are they taking the seeds out of everything? Why is it everything... Used to be, if you got a potato and you planted it, you'd then have a potato plant, which I have a lot of, right? And now, like, it used to be, my mum used to say, don't throw the potato scraps in the garden because the freaking the potatoes will just, like, go off. And that was true. And they were like weeds. Get out of the garden. Dog's chasing a bumblebee. Poor thing. Come here. Ish. Come on. Good girl. She's a big nasty shepherd. She chases bumblebees, but she won't even bark when there's someone at the gate. Okay, So it used to be that potatoes were like this annoying weed and you couldn't even give them away during spud season, right? But now you chuck potatoes, you know, even properly plant them, the ones you get from the supermarket, they won't grow. And even if they do, they won't actually produce any more potatoes. So why are they doing that? Like, what is the purpose of that? Do they not want us to be growing our own food? Because, I mean, they're always saying how we're like pests on the planet, right? That, you know, we're running out of food and stuff. Who knows? And then they kind of don't want us to grow our own food. Well, that's what it seems like. So, what's with that? Hey guys, sorry, my phone died and I needed a long sleeve. So, non-organics does have its positives. I mean, if you live in a cold place and you want to grow mangoes, they can change its genetics so you can grow mangoes in the cold, or you can grow grapes in the desert. You know, that's... I mean, there are a lot of places that can't grow food. And, I guess it's hard for me to judge because I can grow everything here in Tassie, except mangoes. You can't grow mangoes here. Or any sort of tropical fruit, but most things you can grow here. And, I mean, we have to say we're pretty lucky because there are not a whole lot of people in the Western world starving to death because of lack of food or unaffordable pricing of food. So they can make food at a questionable quality, but it's affordable. And they can make them larger and stuff so that you're getting more for your money, which, I mean, it's easy to be picky. It sure is easy to be picky and you want everything to be pure, but if you're hungry and there's only a GMO apple there, you are sure as hell going to eat that GMO apple. Even I would, right? And I'm a bit of a purist, so yeah, I do think that it has its benefits and its place. And I think that we should all have like somewhat of a vegetable garden. And I think it's okay. Like when I first started my garden, I'm like, I'm not having anything GMO. I'm gonna seed save and I'm gonna do this and that. And so I spent like 3 years without a garden because I was being all purist and like, no, I'm not gonna have anything GMO. And I simply couldn't afford the seeds. Like we call them digger here in Australia. I don't know if they import overseas. Anyway, I couldn't afford the seeds, so I just went without. And then I'm like, okay, fine, I'll just grow, you know, seeds from Woolies and reject shop. So I started that, and it just kind of made me realise that sometimes you don't have to be a purist. Like, if all you can afford is non-organic, it's still bloody food, right? And if the only seed packets you can afford are GMO, it's still going to make food for you. And I've actually found that sometimes the GMO plants do actually have reproductive seeds. But sometimes they don't. So I guess they can't say that they do or they don't completely. So that's why they don't usually say it on the packet. But sometimes they do, which I found with I found these tomatoes, little cherry tomatoes. They became a weed. I could not get rid of them. That's how well they'd reproduce. And I'm pretty sure that they were tomatoes from, they were non-organic tomatoes. And the cherry tomato would just, if I missed one, it'd just fall down and rot, and then the seeds would, burrow in, and the next year they'd just sprout up. So, yeah, sometimes they do reproduce. And everything has its place, if your crop is about to die and that's going to financially ruin you, maybe you need to get some aerial spraying done. You know what I mean? Like everything has its place, absolutely. But if you can, I think that organic is good. And I mean, they haven't really tested much about it, so we don't know if there's any health differences between the two. I mean, we can have our opinions, which I am very opinionated, don't you worry. But I guess there's no studies done about it, so. Well, this is Aysha's opinion. Thank you for watching.